life of Tibetan monks is a secret with 7 seals. It is entirely dedicated to the search for truth. They say about Tibetan monks that they know practices that allow one to achieve Buddhahood in just one incarnation. They carry a human skull in their bags to always remember the impermanence and proximity of death. Tibetan monks are resistant to cold. They can walk in thin cotton clothes even in severe frosts, go without food for months. They know everything about Tibetan mandalas. They can transfer their consciousness into the bodies of other living beings. Carriers of the secret practices of the 6 yogas of Naropa, they easily travel to worlds that are not accessible to mere mortals. What is true and what is fiction? Perhaps these are just myths that are often filled with various religious movements. Are Tibetan monks really people? Tibetan monk, the perfection of renunciation. Tibetan monks are known for their detachment from the material world. The work of Shantideva describes in some detail the philosophy and practices of Tibetan monks. As the great philosopher writes, sensual pleasures are like honey on a razor blade. In their meditative practices, they go through all 8 levels of dhyana, meditation, one by one, during which they gradually comprehend the 3 aspects of being: impermanence, impersonality, and dissatisfaction. At the first levels of dhyana, certain mental formations are preserved. After mastering the 4th level, the meditator directs his attention to the impermanence of all phenomena, and the surrounding world literally begins to split into atoms in the mind of the adept. At this stage, the state of awareness of the absence of everything is reached. The theoretical understanding of this phenomenon is described in detail by the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara in the Heart Sutra. It is the understanding of the illusory nature and impermanence of all things and phenomena that allows Tibetan monks to achieve the perfection of renunciation. And the secret of their detachment is simple. They follow the rules not just because these rules are described in ancient texts, but because they themselves understood the nature of the impermanence of things and phenomena on a practical level. This realization destroys all attachments. However, a formal code of conduct for a monk does exist. Tibetan teaching 6 yogas of Naropa. The quintessence of Tibetan practices is the set of secret instructions, the 6 yogas of Naropa. These are 6 practices, each of which allows you to work out a separate aspect of the personality at the energy, physical, and spiritual levels. The first of the practices is the practice of tummo. The practitioner performs volitional pranayama with breath holding on inhalation and exhalation, with the corresponding energy locks and visualizations, mainly fire and light in his body. There are 3 levels of mastering the practice: small wind, medium wind, and great wind. During the practice, the monk visualizes the movement of energy through the channels, thereby purifying them, and also concentrates on the images of fire and light, which allows you to start the process of generating heat in the physical body. The most difficult to complete is the last level. 3 breath holds are performed in a row on inhalation with locks, then 3 breath holds on exhalation with locks, and all this is accompanied by the visualization of a body blazing with fire and then emptiness. In short, practice is not for everyone. This rather complex practice combines breathing, volitional breath holding, visualization, energy locks, and so on. But the result can also be quite serious. Monks who have mastered the great wind level become completely insensitive to cold. Those who have passed all the stages of initiation into this practice pass the test. With the energy of the body, 14 wet towels must be dried in the cold in 10 minutes. This is the standard for excellent. Ideally, a monk is able, even with the energy of his body, to heat a room no worse than a stove. And this is only the first of the 6 yogas of Naropa. The monks also master the yoga of dreams, thanks to which going to sleep with a concentration on one or another image in a certain part of the body, for example, on a red lotus in the throat area or on a white sun between the eyebrows, they are able to travel in the depths of the subconscious, working through their inner problems and limitations. For example, falling asleep with concentration on the image of the black sun in the crotch area allows you to meet your fears in a dream and overcome them, because in a dream it is much easier to step towards fear. The monks also master the yoga of the illusory body and, most incredible, the yoga of consciousness transfer, which allows you to transfer your consciousness into the body of another living being. And the practice of Bigu Shichi allows you to achieve a level of energy nutrition. During this practice, a rather simple visualization is performed. The navel opens into a lotus flower, and the practitioner visualizes the process of feeding through the navel. The visualization itself is quite simple, but the effect of energizing is achieved through the perfection of concentration. And Tibetan monks acquire it thanks to one of the most basic practices, for example, concentration on a point on the wall. The purpose of this practice is to learn to continuously concentrate on an object. As for the purpose of this practice is to learn to continuously concentrate on an object. As fortitary rules for monks then, first of all, it should not violate the principle of ahimsa, non-violence. In order to at least roughly understand the complexity of the meditative practices performed by Tibetan monks, you can read such a text as Comprehension of the Deeds and Dharma of the Bodhisattva Olive, encompassing wisdom. Everything that is described there, all this must be imagined only by the power of one's imagination. One way or another, all practices give the monks certain siddhis, superpowers. So, for example, the art of Panlongman allows you to achieve body stability in relation to external damage. Tibetan monks were previously often attacked by both organized armies and just random robbers. That is why martial arts and various physical body training methods are also popular among them. But the ultimate goal of all practices is, of course, the attainment of Buddhahood, and the highest superpower is compassion for all living beings. Tibetan monks are, first of all, practitioners. How long they live, how much they practice. The secret teaching of Tibet makes it possible to attain Buddhahood in just one lifetime, and one's life is dedicated to this goal alone. Tibetan philosophy. The world is an illusion. Tibetan philosophy is no different from the classical teachings of Buddhist monks. The basis of this philosophy is the first sermon of the Buddha about what is suffering and what is the way to stop it, as well as the instructions given in the Heart Sutra, the Diamond Sutra, and many other Prajnaparamita Sutras. The philosophy of Tibetan Buddhism is quite succinctly and clearly stated in the philosophical treatise of the monk Shantideva, The Way of the Bodhisattva. Legend has it that when he read his text in front of the monks, his body soared above the floor, and he himself entered a state of samadhi. This treatise describes how monks should perceive the world around him, how to relate to himself, to living beings, to the world. All fears, as well as all endless suffering, originate in the mind. Tigers, lions, large elephants, bears, snakes, and enemies of all stripes. All can be tamed by taming only your mind, Shantideva writes. In the last chapters, he gives specific practices of analytical meditation, aimed, for example, at destroying the illusory attractiveness of the female body, at understanding cause and effect relationships, and so on. Buddhist monk. Path to nirvana. What should be a Buddhist monk? According to the first sermon of the Buddha, the goal of the path is nirvana. However, the Lotus Sutra of the Miraculous Dharma says that the Buddha's teaching is given only to bodhisattvas, that is, to those who, having the opportunity to go to nirvana, remain in samsara for the benefit of sentient beings. And there are different schools, each of which adheres to a particular concept. Therefore, it is difficult to form a unified idea of which way Buddhist monks go. One thing is certain. Buddhist monks are renounced wanderers who come into this world as if to a school of harsh lessons in order to achieve spiritual and moral purity, free themselves from the shackles of the material world, and, if possible, help others in this. And the guiding star of every Buddhist monk remains compassion for living beings. And everything else is the consequences of this.